All right, everybody, here we go. Episode 14 of the Airborne podcast, the Olympic season. So we're getting things started, and we've had a little bit of a layoff since last season, and just want to update you guys on what's been going on. So
yeah, we just took off from Australia. We had a water amp camp there to end the summer, but let's wind back a little bit and talk about the end of last season.
Yeah, and I think just going through last season, like Quinn, obviously for you, like last season was huge coming off that ACL tear 2 years ago. First full season back. Why don't you just go through your year and just tell me how it felt? Stop before World Championships, and then we'll go into that part afterwards.
Yeah, so started off the season really slow. They were holding me back on singles and stuff, and then progressively ramped my way up to triples right before the Lake Placid World Cup, which was the first stop of the season. That was went pretty well, I would say, all things considered. I jumped really well for myself, especially coming off of knee surgery. Did my first double ins in the World Cup, which was super exciting to get those launched off for the first time again. And then where was our next stop?
Well, you put down solid jumps, but like, just going back to Lake Placid, it's always an interesting one to talk about for you, mostly because, like, you know, not in a way where it was like egregious, but you kind of got a little fucked in that event.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that. Where
let's be honest here, we talked about we want to be more honest, more raw, and really just give people the insight.
Yeah, so I kind of, I thought I did a really nice jump. In my opinion, it was a really nice jump. Maybe finished a little late. So with double in, you want to finish right at 9 o'clock, and I've probably finished at 10 or 11 o'clock. And the judges really didn't like that, and so I kind of got screwed in the finals round going into super finals and didn't end up making super finals.
Got that seventh place, that bubble jump.
Yeah, especially I wanted to have a good event coming back, and I did, but especially in a home World Cup, you always want to make that super finals round and give yourself a shot at the podium. So that definitely hurt, but in all things being considered, it was a really good event for me to get my confidence up going into the rest of the season.
Well, you executed, right? And when we say you got fucked, like that's like kind of like a rough way to say it, because out of, if we're being honest, like not egregious, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I got a 112 and the bubble score ended up being like 117 or 118. But the thing is that I knew it was my twist timing, and I watched some I'll just put it out there. I watched a Chinese jumper who finished just as late as I did, and they gave him a 118. But I know the difference is that I twist right, and it helps me when the judges' tower is on the left side. And in Lake Placid, the judges' tower is on the right side, and that guy was a left twister. So the way he opened up, it just looked better to the judges, and I think that was what it was. And
just really could have been a special event for you, for sure. It being your first event back from a knee injury. I mean, you were trying to get on that podium, first event back, and just kind of didn't get to live that out.
Yeah, and Lake Placid, like going back, like first event back there in a few years, like it would have been super special to grab a podium first event back from knee surgery, being the first Lake Placid World Cup in, 4 or 5 years?
I think 5 years it was.
Yeah, so that would have been super sweet, but didn't end up coming to fruition, and it was what it was.
Was the first event of the year. Good to touch on it, so keep going with your season.
Where do we go next?
Canada next.
Canada was next. That was a rough one for me. I punched front in one of the competitions and in qualies, didn't even make it to finals. And then the next day, I slapped back and didn't.
If I remember, I think you landed, but it just wasn't a great jump. I think you got like 14th. I don't know.
It might have been. It might have been. Either way, nothing really to write home about. It was just not my best weekend, and that kind of hurt because Canada holds a special place in my heart because I got my first victory there. So I really wanted to do well, especially back-to-back World Cups. It was just not what I wanted. And then where do we go after that? We went
after Canada was Deer Valley.
Deer Valley. So Deer Valley was a real special one. That competition was, was it spicy. We didn't really train that much. And then the day of the competition, it was 40 and raining until about 5 o'clock. So we ended up canceling qualies and then made it a 2-jump comp. And then we showed up and the triple wasn't even close to being ready to hit. And then there was this whole influx of all these things going wrong. But
that was a hectic day.
Yeah, I kept my head down. I told Vlad we're hitting this triple, and ended up sending some triples off, first one off the jump, and ended up being able to snag a victory there, I haven't had a day like that and it was super special having my family there and all my friends there. And Deer Valley is always one of the best crowds of the season, so to snag a victory at the home World Cup and to share the podium with you was super, super special. And then after that, we went China. That was a clusterfuck there, because that was some of the worst conditions that we've jumped in a while. I say since Bakarani, it was just, the wind was swirling. Like one jump, you'd have to step up like 5 skis because there was a gnarly headwind, and then you'd watch someone send it to their back, and then everyone would step down, and then someone would land on the backside of the knoll, and it was just so difficult to jump there. But the actual site itself, China, seems like they always have really nice sites, was
really
a redeeming
nice sites,
factor.
really bad weather.
But yeah, really bad weather. Ended up jumping pretty decent there. I got into super finals with you, and then chainsaw the double in and landed on my back, which was what it was. And then the team event we had the next day, you, Corinna, and myself were able to snag a second place there, which kind of redeemed my weekend and made the whole China trip worth it, in my opinion. And then from there, we went to Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan...
punch front monster.
Oh, man, that was rough, because we both dropped the ball on that one, and we both had opportunities to have really nice jumps and move into the finals round, and both of us didn't even make it past qualifications, which was a real bummer, but... it is what it is at the end of the day. And then from there, Livigno. That one was all right. I didn't jump to the best of my abilities, but did decent, made finals, and didn't do what I needed to do in finals, and then fell and whatever, and that was what it was.
And so we'll cut your season right there, because there's more to talk about later for Quinn. That was not the end of the story, but we'll kind of cut it at that World Cup ender, and then I'll just go through my season really quickly. Interesting year for me last year. Mm-hmm. Overall, and I think if you've listened to this podcast, to a certain extent, you're going to hear me say a little meat left on the bone in the season, but had a solid year, got 3 podiums, all 3 of them third places, which is kind of like kissing your sister. Like, it's always great to be on the podium, and get on the podium in a World Cup. It's very difficult to do, but not being able to stand up on the top of the podium at any time in this season just kind of hurt me. So going into Lake Placid, landed my qualifications jump. Unlike you, I did not get fucked. I fucked up myself. And so slapped back in that event. Then I went to Canada and got gifted the...
Oh, yeah, I got Canada World Cup.
So I think I've had 12 or 13 World Cup podiums, and I've never gotten a gift like that one in my life.
Dude, I remember after your Super Finals jump, you were like trying to like walk away from like where the area is, and they wouldn't let you leave, and you just kept on watching jump after jump just fall or not hit a takeoff or whatever it was.
And so like going through that one, for me, jumped well in the qualifications, made it into the final, jumped well in the finals, made it into the super finals, and then did a very nice jump in the super final. But I think you and I both got caught by that punch front snake a couple times. So for those of you that don't know, a punch front is when you're coming into the hill, everything looks perfect, then you hit and you pop into a front flip. Yep. Really difficult to avoid those, because I always say it's about as close to sticking a jump as you can get without doing it.
The reason I would say punch fronts happen is because you're trying to stick a jump. Like, if you sometimes are a little bit more cautious and willing to absorb a little bit more and be a little bit more back seat, which you won't get a perfect landing score, which we're always chasing, then you won't punch front as much. But you and I are always going for those perfect landings, and as a result of that, the punch fronts happen from time to time.
So kind of had more punch front experiences between the two of us than usual, and I'm definitely trying to stay away from that this year. No real way to stay away from it. That's kind of the frustrating part when it comes to punch fronts, is it always feels really good right up until you do it.
Yep.
And so for that event, I punch front on that super final jump. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to finish in 5th or 6th or something like that. Like, kind of going to be disappointed, ready for that. And then just through a convergence of different events and, just the wildness of sports, 3 people messed up worse than I did in that round. And so I ended up getting a 3rd there, first podium of the season. Didn't do well the second day, unfortunately. And so at this point in my story for my season, this is when a knee injury started popping up for me.
Yeah, you were.
It kind of was going into Deer Valley that I started to notice that my knee was not reacting and responding
And that
very
was
well.
a partially torn
Quad tendon.
Yeah,
So I lost about, I pretty much had a 60% tear in my quad tendon, no rupture or anything like that. And what that meant for me was that I was able to continue jumping for the rest of the year. It was kind of up to me, but with a lot of pain.
Yeah.
With a lot of pain.
And I saw you at multiple times in the season grabbing your knee and, not landing how you typically could land, just trying to kind of save your leg. And I saw that throughout the season, but you were a trooper and you chugged through.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we do. And I think a lot of people, that have been on World Cup Tour and been professional athletes for a long time, like if you want to compete and you want to compete consistently, there's going to be injuries in there.
For sure.
I knew I didn't want to be done for the year. Had too much left that I wanted to accomplish. And so, am proud of being able to tough it out. Didn't miss a start, didn't miss an event, but was definitely in a lot of pain. But was able to get my first domestic World Cup podium at Deer Valley the very same day that you won. So we got off that triple. We competed well. You laid down a better jump than I did in that super final, took home the W, but was able to get on the podium myself and share that. And any of those moments when you have two Americans on the podium at a home event, I mean, that was special for me.
Yeah, I
just
got goosebumps thinking about it.
Me actually literally just started shivering thinking about it. So moving forward, then I went to China, again, grinding and quickly going through China. I think it was one of the worst training weeks I've ever had.
I saw one straight training jump out of you, and it was a small double in that you absolutely slung and stayed straight and had to stretch down. But I saw one straight training jump out of you the entire week of training that we had there, and then comp, you turned it on and figured your speeds out. And
just that comp, I remember leaving in the morning and being like, oh my fuck, I am literally going to not do well today. I haven't done well. But when it comes to the competition, every professional athletes know, that's when it's time to turn things on, rain or shine, whether things have been going well or not. So was able to compete well there, still dealing with that knee injury, but got on the podium again. And then moving forward to that, like we said, went to Kazakhstan, did not compete well there. Gosh, I said I had 3 podiums, so that was 2. Deer Valley. Oh, yeah. So Deer Valley, China, and Canada were my 3 podiums last year. Didn't do well in Kazakhstan. Livigno at the World Cup Finals. Made it into that super final. Again, really dealing with that knee injury, really weighing on my mind. It's not really an excuse to not execute, but it's just an added factor.
Yeah,
it's just where I was mentally
it's something
at.
that takes your focus away slightly.
So, was not feeling very well going into that event. Got, as that day went on in Livigno, the knee was just kind of deteriorating throughout the day. So that super finals jump, I remember standing up top and being like, oh my God.
And I could see it too with your training jumps and your training days where you'd show up and it wouldn't bother you as much, and then throughout the day as your leg got more fatigued, you'd feel it more. And I could see that too. I could see it with just the way that you kind of would carry your leg and just little things, and you never let it really truly affect you, but I did, as watching you jump all the time, I could definitely see that.
Well, and the funny thing about that was just every single jump I'd take, I mean, you imagine a 60-foot triple backflip. Every time I would hit the jump and land a jump, it felt like my kneecap was ripping off, and there was this ripping sensation that I was getting in there. Went into World Championships, so that was the season. It was kind of up and down season, some good moments, some bad moments, and definitely a lot to be desired. But going into World Championships, we got to compete and defend that World Championships title in the team event.
And let's just walk through the beginning of that day. So I remember showing up and being a little nervous. And you're what the heck's going on with you? Because typically when I show up, I'm like, let's go, let's fucking get it, big dog mentality.
Yeah, Quinn was very you were very off. Not very off, but you were just not. You were very quiet.
Just a little bit more quiet, and a little bit more reserved. And I was just I didn't want to let down the team. And that's the thing about the team events, is that you're not just jumping for yourself, you're jumping for 2 other teammates, and it just kind of adds a little bit of pressure where it's man, if I mess up, then I'm letting down these 2 people too.
Yep, and I remember coming up to you in the tram as we were taking the tram up to the top and being like, Quinn, I'm not worried about you. No. And I remember you being upset because you had a pretty rough day of training the day before where you were not flipping at your normal speed, not hitting those takeoffs?
Typically that's one of my strong suits is hitting takeoffs and being really consistent at getting my flip going and giving myself a good shot. And the
Just
day
had
before,
a bad day.
Yeah, the day before it was just not what I wanted, like going into World Championships.
But I literally remember going up to you and just being like, Quinn, I know you. You're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, you were going to be there, so don't worry about it.
Not 2 days
I was like, I'm not worried about you. Mm-mm. And so going into that event, we had Kayla Kuhn on the triple competing in her first World Championships team event. And then you and I obviously were running it back from Bakarani
for sure.
2 years before that. And, we dominated them. We did.
Yep.
We dominated that event. And
we knew right off the bat, once both Chris and I were at the bottom, we were watching Kayla go off for her first jump. And as soon as she landed that lay full, we were like, oh, it's on. It's on. Like, we are about to go slay this competition. And that's what we did.
Yep. And due to some, the Team China is always that, like, they're always that team that people are looking at going into that. And, for whatever reason, they did not have a good day that day. And they didn't even make it to that second round of the World Championships. And so we were put in a position, I remember, a funny story about my jump was you and Kayla went, right? Mm-hmm. And so Kayla went, she landed, game on. Yep. You went, you did a very solid jump, game on. But then due to some crashes and some other teams, really not being in the position that they wanted to be in.
Don't tell me Vlad asked you to do a full.
No.
I was about to say, I was like, Vlad, if I heard that.
No, but I was in a position where I knew that I really only needed to do what we would probably consider a mediocre jump in order to win that event. And I was kind of in a tough spot, right? Because, like, part of you is like, oh, let's take a little off the top, kind of, like, get the eyes on the ground, get it to the feet. But and I know that that's not really how aerials works. Like, if you try to
back off forward, or be safe, it's
just not going to work.
Yeah.
So I went into this jump being like, I'm going to lay down a banger, and then was able to do that. And it was one of those special moments where you stick that jump, and we didn't have to wait for the score.
Yeah.
We won.
We knew already.
And so got to share that with you.
Then the celebration, that was...
I
remember you
going.
Came down, you were trying to hug us. I was like, Chris, wait a second. Sally first, and then we hugged, and that was super fun.
And honestly, it's just good for TV. We do those celebrations for us, and we really enjoy them. But we kind of like take our inspiration a little bit out of football and the NFL,
baseball, just any
touchdown celebrations, things like that.
For sure.
Do a little dance, but just really special and meaningful moment to continue to be consistent in those huge team events,
and especially coming off of getting screwed in we screwed ourselves in the Placid team event. And then we got second in the China team event. So we really needed redemption on this team event. And we came through when it mattered and defended our title. And
back-to-back world champs.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. I'll quickly go through my world championships day for the individual event. Jumped well in the qualifications. Again, not to harp on it, but that knee injury was just kind of starting to catch up to me at the end of the season.
Just lingering.
So trying to do back-to-back competitions and fit all those competitions into one weekend. Did well in the qualifications.
And it was 3 days because it was team event, then it was qualies day, then it was finals, super finals day.
Exactly. So that's like 3 big days. And so landed my first qualifications jump, made it into the finals pretty easily, but just came out that last day, and the knee, again, just wasn't working for me. 2 solid jumps that were easily landable that I could have done in the finals round, but just wasn't able to hold on to either of them and keep them on my feet. So that was my world championships. I got 7th. Definitely not what I was looking for, but then I got to kind of lock in and watch you and Kayla. And so let's talk about that, because obviously you and Kayla are dating, and so, special event that you guys got to go and be double world champs.
Yes.
So now the floor is yours. Tell me about that.
So... qualies went really, really well. Qualified first with a really nice double in that I absolutely stuck the piss out of. Still bummed that they didn't give me a 3-0 on that one. But then they made it up in finals where I did a really, really nice daddy. And
stuck it.
It was a perfect landing. It was a 3-0.
You couldn't have landed it any better.
And so qualified first going into super finals round 2. And then... I watched Kayla at the top before my super finals jump. Watched her do her nasty layful full, land it, see Vlad's arms go up, and realize she's world champion. I'm like, oh, all right, like great for her. Let's lock back in. And now I watch all the guys go. And I remember Noe was he qualified second, and watched him do the best jump of all time.
History.
Yep, 144 or whatever the hell it was. And
Which huge shout out to Noe.
Yep.
I broke that record from Jarrett Speedy Peterson in Deer Valley. It was, in my opinion, I totally agree with the score, the nicest jump in Ariel's history.
Yep.
So earned that one.
And then at that point, I already kind of planned, because with coming off the knee and how my season had kind of transpired, I hadn't really been ripping quints, and I ripped one in Lavinia, and it didn't go as great as I would have hoped. So I was kind of saving the quint if I really needed it, which I saw that jump and we knew what the score was, and I had a pretty good feeling
just
that
wasn't in a position to beat it.
Yeah.
And like, just quickly hopping in there, coming off knee surgery, didn't get the training last summer. You did do a Quentin Lavinia, which was badass, but kind of ate shit on it.
Yeah, took a digger.
And so, I think you made the smart choice in the fact that you knew you could execute a quad twist and get a silver medal if you executed.
And that was the plan. Was that morning was, all right, I'm gonna go up there, slay my daddy, get a high score, and move into the finals and not have to burn my double in. So I ended up doing full in the second round of finals, so that I didn't have to burn that double in to get in.
Because we have to do different tricks each round of the competition.
So yeah, for finals and super finals, you need three different jumps. So typically you either need 2 quad twists and a quint, or 3 different quad twists. So, and I have full, double full, but not as consistent as my double in. And so I was trying to kind of hold that one off to, be able to use that in the super finals if need be. And then if I had to burn that, then I probably would have gone double, single, and who knows what that would have been like, but would have done it, and ended up putting down a pretty decent double in and putting it on my feet and grabbing second at World Champs. So
back-to-back silver medals in the last 2 World Championships. Yep. These are big events. These are hard events. Everybody wants to be on the podium. Everybody wants to become world champion. You executed really well at the end of the season, and I think that you really set yourself up for just to enter this summer on a high note.
For sure.
And Quinn, you're like a little brother to me, so watching you do that and execute, especially coming off a knee injury, which I blew my knee in 2018, so I know how difficult that very next season can be.
For sure.
Where you're not necessarily hurt, but you're also not necessarily healthy.
Yeah, not 100%, I would say.
Yeah.
There's days where your knee is not feeling the best, and thankfully throughout the season, my knee was always manageable, and I never had days where I was like, oh my God, it hurts so bad where I can't go do this. I definitely had moments where I was like, it hurts and this isn't ideal, but I'm not gonna let it stop me. And yeah, being able to have the results in the year that I did last year was really just a boost of confidence going into this year, I'd say.
All right, so now that was last season. Last season's done. It's over. This is the 2025-26 Olympic season. Olympics will be in Milano Cortina this February. You, not knowing it at the time, used that second in World Championships to get a pre-qualified spot. So you're good as far as qualification goes. I know you and I have talked at length that really doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't really change anything. It takes a little bit of weight off my shoulders, but it doesn't change the game plan at all with how I'm approaching the season, how we're going to go into each World Cup attacking, and how we're planning on ripping fives this season. And we're planning on gearing up for the Olympics, and that pre-qualifying doesn't really change any of that. It just takes a little bit of weight off the shoulders with I have to do well in this World Cup to get the Olympic criteria process, and it's just taking a little bit of weight off of that, but it hasn't changed anything.
And honestly, I we've talked about it so many times this summer. The reason I think it doesn't change anything is because both you and I are high enough caliber jumpers to where if we jump, even remotely to our potential, we do expect to be on that Olympic team and hopefully be representing. Nothing is done. And so injuries and things like that can obviously be things that can stop up any athlete. But it was never really about qualifying. I mean, knock on wood for me. I shouldn't knock because it messes up the audio.
Whatever.
But knock on wood for me because I still got to get my job done and qualify. But it doesn't really change the game plan because you're going to try and medal at the Olympics or win the Olympics. And so to do that, you know what you need to do. I know what I need to do. Going into this summer, I would say that I went into this summer with more intensity than I have felt since the last summer before the last Olympics, where it was fives, quick twisting triples every day of training.
We were out there ripping this
every
summer.
single day of training for 3 months in Park City. And so I'll quickly go into mine. I'm hoping to break out a new trick this season. Can't really give you any insight with the fact that we haven't taken a jump on snow yet of when that's going to be, but hoping to do what's called a full double-double. Once I do it on snow, I'll officially name it this. But I'd like to call it the Sugar Daddy.
Yeah,
so
like
that's
that.
my name
like
for it. The Hurricane's got such a sexy name to it. I got to come up with something. So the Sugar Daddy, the reason being full double full is we call that one the Daddy. And so full double full, I think that's just adding a little bit of sugar on top.
Or you could go Daddy Plus, but I kind of the Sugar Daddy.
I like the Sugar Daddy.
Yeah.
I'm willing to call it that. We'll see if it if it catches on or whatnot. But I'm hoping to unleash that trick and do my first time doing a second quint on snow. I've done double in, double out for the last 5 years, but hoping to do that this year. And the reason that for me it was so important to lock in and focus on getting a second quintuple twisting triple is because we don't know what the situation is going to be. This might be the very first Olympics
where you need
two
different quints. Where the last Olympics, the bubble score for super finals was like a 123 or 124?
Yeah, something like that.
So that is a very high level quad twisting backflip. That is very, very
Basically,
nice.
you got to nail it.
Very few mistakes, and the level of jumping is higher now, and
people are getting better.
And so we both know that there might be in the Olympic finals where the bubble scores a high 120s, like a 127 to freaking get into super finals. And with that being said, you would need to do a perfect quad twisting triple backflip, basically,
or step up to that,
or
quint.
step up to a quint. And just like World Championships, you need 3 different jumps. So if you burn a quint,
you'd have
to have another one. So we both know going into this Olympics, like, you kind of have to have another quint in your back pocket. Doesn't mean you have to be doing it consistently, but like you've got to have that.
Well, it's kind of like you got to have one, in my opinion, that you're married to, and then you got to have a little mistress quint on the side that you might throw out there if necessary.
That's a good way of putting it.
And so, I'm looking to do that on snow at some point this season, get that kind of dialed up, and then obviously your big project of the summer was the Hurricane. So why don't we talk about that? How do you feel about trying to become the first American to do a Hurricane since Jared Speedy Peterson?
It's a crazy feeling, and I understand why not a lot of people have tried that trick. It's very, very difficult. It's not something that you can really make mistakes on. If you don't hit your takeoff or you miss just the littlest thing, then that trick becomes very, very hard to do and dangerous. So I understand why not a lot of people do it, but I'm really excited to give it a whirl this year. And
how many canes do you think you did this summer?
I think we counted. I think I'm at like 65 or 70, somewhere in there. So,
for anybody wondering, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that is a lot.
Because really, if you're doing more than 3 or 4 a day, like it's just a physically and mentally taxing trick. Like you don't really think about how mentally taxing it is, because every single time you do it, it's nerve-wracking, and there's so many things that you have to think about and be specific with. So you can only really do a few. Like, you can rip 5 of them a day, but realistically, we're going for quality over quantity, and after about 3 or 4, that quality really drops off. So to do 60 this summer was really great, and I'm feeling about as prepared as I can going into this trick.
We talked about it the other day, man. I was like, you did as many as you could have possibly done. You grinded it as hard as you possibly could have. And so win, lose, or draw, if you end up eating it or you end up sticking it, at least you put yourself in the best position to,
and this will be
make it successful.
The 3rd quint I've attempted on snow.
Which is its own record, probably.
Yeah, that will be 3 different quints attempted, because I tried double, single, double before I blew my knee, and then I did double, double, single last year at Livigno, and then this will be full, triple, full. So it'll be 3 attempted quints on snow.
Now, you didn't land any of your previous Quinn attempts.
I got close on some of the double or the double single doubles, but didn't put one down.
Well, and I think it was like before you blew your knee, it was like you did like 5. So it's not like you had like a million attempts at it.
For sure.
But you did about 5 and then you blew your knee. So obviously that wasn't it. Last year, you wanted to do one in Livigno and you only did 1.
Yeah.
And so that,
well, I bodied myself on that one.
But again, not a lot of attempts at it.
Yeah. And that was also coming off of a summer where I water ramped for a month and a half out of the entire summer. So
but
it was kind of surprising to be able to do that on snow. And
you kind of did it just because you're a little nuts.
Yeah, a little bit.
Nobody was making you do that. That was your idea.
Yeah. But this year's different, where I've really grinded on this trick and I'm really thought about this trick a lot. And really, the idea came from Vlad after he saw my daddy in World Championship finals. He was like, I think we do Hurricane. Like he saw that jump and he was like, all right, I think we do Hurricane. And I was fully on board. I'm like, all right, coach, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. You say jump, I say how high. And that's where we came to be. And then had a really great summer where both of us grinded throughout. And then we just finished up our Australian water ramp camp, which was a first for us. And I think went really well.
And it was something that was like super cool for me. I mean, I've been on the team for 11 years, been on World Cup tour for 11 years now, or this will be my 11th year. And I've never gotten to jump right before a winter before. So we did our Quint twisting triples like a week ago.
Yep.
And so now we're about to literally in like 2 hours go out for our very first training session of the winter off the single, like a single back flip.
Yeah.
But to like keep that fresh in the mind, I think really does eliminate a lot of the stress and anxiety, because for better or worse, like, do you really lose those skills when you take a month off? No. But the mind plays tricks. It doesn't feel fresh.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you've done it. And so it's kind of fun to come into this season.
Well, and also another factor is every single site that we jump on in the winter is different. So you've got to adapt your jumping style and your takeoffs to the site that you're jumping on. And the water ramp in Australia was a little bit different. The shape's just ever so slightly different than Utah. And I think that also helped with just being able to adapt our jumping styles before we go and do that on snow. So I think that was also massive for us, just kind of adapting, because I know all of us kind of had a little bit of trouble the first day or two, just kind of getting used to the jump. A little bit of trouble.
I jumped like trash for like 2-3 days. I hadn't jumped in like 6 weeks, so like it was a little bit of a layoff before we got there. And because it's a water ramp, like aerial skiers get really comfortable on water ramps, and like you just not the same kind of like risk as snow. So obviously we go hit the triple like day 2, and we got off the airplane from
I hit
Australia.
day 1, dude.
Well, that's right, but you'd already been there before.
Yeah, I'd been there this previous summer because of my knee and all that stuff. But yeah,
we got off the airplane
after a 30-hour travel day from Salt Lake to Brisbane. Got off the airplane at, what was it, like 7 o'clock?
In the morning,
yeah, 7 in the morning, and then went directly to the water ramps and
warmed up and jumped.
And I was like, man, I don't really feel. I did 2 doubles, and then I was like, well, I want to go up, and he was like, all right, and then literally ripped triples after a 30-hour travel day, which was kind of insane. Like, you don't ever do that, especially on snow. So it's kind of.
But we were kind of having fun with it. Like we were on the plane, like talking about it, and like even me.
The reason we did it was because that Connor and I had done it the year before. I feel like if Connor and I hadn't done that the year before, because we missed our flight and then we showed up a day late, and so we just showed up and Vlad's like, well, we're jumping. You can either sit here and watch or jump. And we were like, well, we ain't gonna sit here and watch. And I feel like if we hadn't done that,
kind of set the vibe.
Yeah, we hadn't done that the year before, then like they wouldn't have been like, all right, go do that. But it ended up being a great camp. The elevator is a godsend.
Oh my God.
If anyone if anyone at the Utah Olympic Park is listening to this, please put an elevator or an escalator into the water ramps.
An elevator. It was awesome. It was amazing. You can do 12, 13 triples a session. And then so when we're walking up 128 stairs per jump, in the UOP, it pretty much makes it so you might be able to go 12 to even 15 or 16 triples a session in Australia.
Feel fresh.
And feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
And then in Park City, it's really more like 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Is like your general session.
Yeah,
just
my typical sessions were like 6 to 9 jumps in Utah this summer.
a lot of stairs.
And then we showed up to Australia and I was ripping like 8 to 13. And it was just like just an additional 5 triples that you can do every single session.
Yeah, so that's sweet. And we're really thankful to the Australian team for letting us come use their stuff and hang out with them for a few weeks and be in 80-degree sunshine before we come to the North Pole for a little bit.
And then so after that, after the whole Australia camp, then we traveled from Brisbane to Ruka, and that was a 36-hour travel day door to door. That was I think the longest travel day we've ever had. It was
ridiculous. I felt like I was
travel day and a
my
half.
whole life in that 36 hours. Like it's literally like 2 days of like being in an airport.
It was an 8-hour flight from Brisbane to Singapore. And then we
6-hour layover.
And then, it ended up being 5 because it was a 9-hour flight because we were just circling because there was weather in Singapore, so we were just circling for an hour. And then we had a 14-hour flight from Singapore to Helsinki, and then a 2-hour layover, and then an hour and a half flight from Helsinki to Kuusamo, and then a 40-minute bus ride, and then finally check in. And then on top of all of that, we got in the morning, so we had to stay up all day here in Ruka
to get the time change.
And it was, that was one of the more rough travel days we've ever had, I think.
I'll tell you what, when I remember, so I was sitting next to Winter on the plane, and we're like circling. You remember when the guy came on, he's like, we're going to have to circle the thing for, an hour basically.
Well, we had already been circling for like 15 or 20 minutes, and Peter was sitting next to me. I was like, Peter, I've seen that island 4 times. And then literally like a minute later, they come on, they're like, we're having there's a storm in the Singapore area. We're going to have to circle until this storm passes. It should be around 30 to 45 minutes.
And this is where we needed Justin Schoenfeld with us, because I would be like, Justin, go land the plane. I need to get off. I've been here too long. He's a pilot. He's got his license and whatnot. Like, Justin, go land that plane and get me off it. But I don't think they would have gone for that either. But just so stressed tired of being in the plane. I think I got in 3 separate fights with different teammates throughout the thing. Not fights, but like arguments, because you're just so tired and stressed. I mean,
fed up with the travel.
Like you're just fed up with people and just everything. And, it's just how it works out. But
now we're here in Ruka.
We're ready to go. The rain, we had some warm weather, but it's finally cold snapped. We'll be getting the jumping going over the next couple days.
Blowing the site now. They're starting to gear things up. And like you said, there's a little single jump that they built on the other side of the resort with some snow that they had. And you guys are about to go do your first backflips, but I think I'm going to hold off and just wait for the full site to be built.
Yeah, well, we literally have like a backyard jump to go hit. It's like a single, but there's no real landing hill or in run, and it's kind of this makeshift thing that the team's put together to help get some backflips off and mostly, keep everybody from going crazy in their apartment and whatnot. So I'm going to go probably do a backflip today just to get a little entertainment out of it, but really won't start things up until we hit the big site, maybe on Monday. That's what we're hoping for. And so I guess the last thing I really want to talk about on this episode, because, we're going to really try and pump out some of this content for you guys this year. It's a big season. There's a lot going on, and we've got some time.
We got the microphones. We're traveling with them. We're going to try and be a little bit more consistent with the posting.
We're going to get some, we're going to try and really pump out some podcasts. So if you like it, please follow along, subscribe, and, you're going to get the insights of what's going on in the Olympic season.
And we're also going to try and be a little bit just more honest and tell you what we're thinking and how our minds actually work, and be a little less filtered on the podcast. So that's just how it's going to be, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, if there's a few swear words, we'll try and keep it, within PG-13, but not really. So, like, if you're going to, listen along, maybe if you're a young kid, get your parents' approval, I guess, a little bit, because we'll just try and have a little bit more fun with it this year. But the last thing I want to talk about before we finish it up is just the mentality. And so I'm going to talk about me, how I'm feeling going into it. This is my 3rd Olympic cycle, 2nd hopeful Olympic berth. I blew my knee right before the 2018 one, but, hoping that's not going to happen, obviously, and excited to get back out there. And each one feels so different. As a 18-year-old kid, when I was doing it the first time, the idea of even just qualifying for the Olympics would have felt like a dream come true. Just to get there. Then, moving 4 years later, after blowing that knee and not being able to do that and go compete with my older brother John, I kind of went into that Olympics being like, all right, I got to qualify. I got to live this dream out, but like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And was able to get that Olympic gold medal in the team event, which is obviously so far the highlight of my life. And very proud of that, and very proud to have done that with Justin and Ashley in 2022. But made it to the super finals of that individual event, and wasn't able to put the quint down.
Just left a little bit of meat on the bone.
Just needed one more jump, left a little meat on the bone. And it is still to this day the only competition jump I've ever cried after not landing. Not like, oh my God, I'm bawling my eyes out, but I was tearing up down there a little bit. I had
just
to find,
knowing that you won't have another shot at it for another 4 years.
And then I remember telling myself, I'm like, if I ever get that shot again to throw a quintuple twisting triple in the super finals of the Olympics, I will land it. And so now, with the Olympics being just a few months away, I'm kind of like, we're getting close to it. And still to this day, 4 years later, 4 years older, definitely a little bit more prone to what I call maintenance injuries than I used to be 4 years ago. But still feeling pretty good and excited for the season. I'm just hoping I get that shot. I'm hungry for that shot. I'm hungry to go defend and try and defend that team event gold. And I'm hungry to try and get that opportunity to throw that quint down, whichever quint it might be, and put it to my feet and live that out. And so this season, it's all gas, no brakes. I don't know if this will be my last try going to the Olympics. I hope not. I do plan on keeping jumping after this season, but
you never know.
Getting to 27 years old, next one I'd be in my 30s. I'm kind of looking at this one and be like, all right, motherfucker, like this is your time to just lay it all out on the line and just really go for it and try and put myself in that position to, hopefully get another Olympic medal or two. And I deal with a lot of different stuff than I used to. Kind of talking about last season, I would say was kind of like the birth of maintenance injuries for me. So that quad tendon tear didn't really happen.
Your hip too, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm about to get into that.
Yeah.
So the quad tendon tear didn't really happen in like a traumatic crash. It just kind of happened over the course of time of jumping, and clearly was just putting a little bit too much pressure on that knee and just was starting to like bother me. Got a PRP injection, which is a plasma rich platelet. It's really nothing special, but it just gives you like good healing growth stuff to get in there. That actually was super effective for me. The knee feels great, not dealing with that one anymore. Unfortunately, around the middle of the summer, I started dealing with some hip problems on my right side, the opposite side. Got an MRI, slap tear.
How did you get that injury again?
Well, we don't know. We're speculating, but it was nothing crazy. It's not like I had some day where I was like, oh my gosh, I just messed up my hip. It's kind of like an injury that was just kind of, what is this? My hip's hurting? So at the end of the summer, it was kind of bothering me more. Got an MRI. I do have a small slap tear in the labrum of my hip. Nothing that's going to prevent me from jumping, but got an injection in that as well before the season started. So I'm getting a little more familiar with injections than I ever was. And, people sticking needles.
Yeah, you don't like needles, not the big needles that they use for the injections.
I think I have a healthy, nobody likes needles. I think, I'm like, so this one was funny. I'll just say the needle entry point bothered me. So because it was going into my hip, the needle was injected roughly 6 inches away from my crotch. And so getting a 6-inch long needle put in 6 inches away from your crotch was like never, I'm like, don't miss.
No, you hope not.
And so dealing with that, but that's also starting to feel better from that injection. Had a great camp in Australia, feel good coming into the winter. And like I said, all gas, no brakes. And I'm just praying, one, that we get to defend that team gold, and that, obviously I'm hoping that you're going to be a part of that because we've been able to go back-to-back world championships. We don't know the team. I don't even know if I'm going to be on the team. But planning on it. I think any athlete with the credentials that I've had in the team events would try and plan on being on the team. And then also you with going back-to-back world champions. With me, I
want to be on that team. I hope to be on that team, and I plan on being on that team.
And then as far as our girl, we don't know. We got 2 strong jumpers. We got Winter Vanecki, who is she was second in the world, just barely missed out on World Cup overall. She dealt with a very difficult neck injury last season, but she's came back. She trained triples throughout the summer. She's looking good. So we're so excited about her. And then obviously world champion Kayla Kuhn, looking very solid. Had a great summer as well. We're not going to talk exactly about her toe injury. It is nothing that's going to affect her as an athlete or jumping, but unfortunately, she had a little bit of a snafu we'll call it an aggressive toe stub
You can call it that.
in Park City a month or so ago. So hopefully that doesn't nag her too much. But looking extremely, confident and good coming into this winter.
Sure.
And so we've got two great options as far as female competitors to have on that team, and we'll just watch them duke it out.
Them duke it out for that team spot, and we know that the best one shall prevail, and that they'll be ready for the team event.
Yeah, and so ideally we all get there, we're all healthy, we're all feeling good, and we can go dominate. But that's where things kind of stand right now, and we'll update you as things go, but we're just about to go into the fire and start competing and start jumping on snow.
For sure. And going into this Olympic season, it's my first real season of being Olympic hopeful in 2022. I had a outsider shot of making it. Just really started triples and knew that I maybe could have gotten lucky, but wasn't really my Olympics. And now I know that I'm going into this Olympics with the goal of getting some hardware. I want to be on that podium. I want to put down a quint in the super finals and get some hardware and hopefully be on the top step of that podium. And that's the mindset going into this. I know it's the same mindset with you. And you're just.
I've watched you train for the last year, really, and not that you don't train hard in off years or whatever, but I've watched you for the last year. I think you've put everything you can into it.
I've definitely tried.
We'll see how it all works.
Trying to make sure that no matter what happens, I'm satisfied with how I approach this season and how I approach this year and the mindset and the preparation and the game plan and just every aspect of it. I'm trying to make sure that I don't leave any meat on that bone and that no matter what happens, I'm satisfied. And that's just the mindset going in. And right now, I'm taking it one jump at a time, so I'm just waiting to kind of start jumping, and then once that happens, then I'll start focusing on the first World Cup. And I like you said, my superpower is not worrying about things until I need to worry about them. So right now, really my mindset is on getting off that double and then getting off that triple and then doing some good triples in the Ruka World Cup.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that's great to end on before we end the podcast is just the Olympic season is all about building. Mm-hmm. And that when we say building, you start off, you go do the single, then you move through the doubles and you make sure everything's, in a good spot. Then you move up to that triple kicker and you try and get all that in a good spot. But the whole point of the season is to kind of have that zenith of execution be peak in February.
Yes, peak.
Yep.
Right,
and that's where you got to do it. And so we got a lot of building to do and a lot of jumps to land and a lot of things to accomplish coming up. And today is kind of the start of that. So I hope I don't go crash on a backflip. I might, things happen, but there's a very low likelihood that I fall.
Hopefully you don't ruin your perfect season.
Yep, we'll see. I've been talking about the perfect season a little bit too much. So I'm we're a little worried I've jinxed it off a little bit, but. It was kind of I made a $50 bet on Bangladesh soccer the other day, and then I just had to bring it up.
Bangladesh versus Nepal, by the way. And
two powerhouses duking it out. Yep. Unfortunately, that was the only thing that was on in the daytime.
In this time.
So I just want a little entertainment, but two powerhouses. But I had to bring it up in the 90+3 minute, and then I ended up letting up a goal and losing the game. So I've been talking about my perfect season. I hope I don't, jinx it off today. But either way, a lot of building to do, and just excited to get started.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. And enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully, you guys tune in for the next one, and we appreciate y'all listening.